Raccoon's paws lack an opposable thumb. Thus, it does not have the agility of the hands of primates. 110-112 There is no observed negative effect on tactile perception when a raccoon stands in water below. Social behavior. Eastern raccoons P.L. Loader in a tree. The raccoon's social structure is grouped into what Alf Holman calls a three-class society. California raccoon P.L. Soarer climbing a tree in Lower Klamath National Wildlife Refuge. Baby raccoon chatter. Duration 1 second 001. Problems playing this file? See media help. Since some males show aggressive behavior towards unrelated kits, mothers will isolate themselves from other raccoons until their kits are big enough to defend themselves. 140. Dousing. Captive raccoons often douse their food before eating. One aspect of raccoon behavior is so well known that it gives the animal part of its scientific name, procyon loader. Loader is Latin for washer. In the wild, raccoons often dabble for underwater food near the shoreline. They then often pick up the food item with their front paws to examine it and rub the item, sometimes to remove unwanted parts. This gives the appearance of the raccoon washing the food. The tactile sensitivity of raccoons' paws is increased if this rubbing action is performed underwater, since the water softens the hard layer covering the paws. 109-162. However, the behavior observed in captive raccoons, in which they carry their food to water to wash or douse it before eating, has not been observed in the wild. 163-160 for naturalist Georges Louis Leclerc. Comte de Buffon believed that raccoons do not have adequate saliva production to moisten food, thereby necessitating dousing. But this hypothesis is now considered to be incorrect. 160-163, 165-166 Captive raccoons douse their food more frequently when a watering hole, with a layout similar to a stream, is not farther away than 3 meters 10 feet. 166. The widely accepted theory is that dousing in captive raccoons is a fixed action pattern from the dabbling behavior performed when foraging at shores for aquatic foods. 160-166, 167, 168 This is supported by the observation that aquatic foods are doused more frequently. Cleaning dirty food does not seem to be a reason for washing. 166. Reproduction. Raccoons usually mate in a period triggered by increasing daylight between late January and mid-March. 169, 170, 171. However, there are large regional differences which are not completely explicable by solar conditions. For example, while raccoons in southern states typically mate later than average, the mating season in Manitoba also peaks later than usual in March and extends until June. 171. During the mating season, males restlessly roam their home ranges in search of females in an attempt to court them during the 3 to 4 day period when conception is possible. These encounters will often occur at central meeting places. 170-173, 170 for copulation, including foreplay, can last over an hour and is repeated over several nights. 175. The weaker members of a male social group also are assumed to get the opportunity to mate, since the stronger ones cannot mate with all available females. 176. In a study in southern Texas during the mating seasons from 1990 to 1992, about 1/3 of all females mated with more than raccoon P.L. loader kit. After usually 63 to 65 days of gestation, although anywhere from 54 to 70 days is possible, a litter of typically 2 to 5 young is born. 181-182. The average litter size varies widely with habitat, ranging from 2.5 in Alabama to 4.8 in North Dakota. 183-180 for larger litters are more common in areas with a high mortality rate, due, for example, to hunting or than one male. 177. If the female does not become pregnant or if she loses her kits early, she will sometimes become fertile again 80 to 140 days later. 178, 179, 180. and eastern winters, 185-180, for while male yearlings usually reach their sexual maturity only after the main mating season. Female yearlings can compensate for high mortality rates and may be responsible for about 50% of all youngborn in a year, 186, 187, 188. Males have no part in raising young, 138, 189, 190. The kids, also called cubs, are blind and deaf at birth, but their mask is already visible against their light fur, 191, 192. The birth weight of the roughly 10 centimeters for long kids is between 60 and 75 grams to 0.1 and to 0.6 ounces. Their ear canals open after around 18 to 23 days, a few days before their eyes open for the first time, 193. Once the kids weigh about 1 kilogram to pounds, they begin to explore outside the den, consuming solid food for the first time after 6 to 9 weeks, 190 for 195 after this point. Their mother suckles them with decreasing frequency. They are usually weaned by 16 weeks, 196. In the fall, after their mother has shown them dens and feeding grounds, the juvenile group splits up, 197. 198. While many females will stay close to the home range of their mother, males can sometimes move. This is considered an instinctive behavior, preventing inbreeding, 201-202. However, mother and offspring may share a den during the first winter in cold areas. The raccoon, or U.S. Raccoon, procyon loader, also spelled raccoon 3 and sometimes called the common raccoon, or northern raccoon to distinguish it from the other species, is a mammal native to North America. It is the largest of the procyonid family, having a body length of 40 to 70 centimeters, 16 to 28 in, and a body weight of 5 to 26 kilograms, 11 to 57 pounds. Its grayish coat mostly consists of dense underfur, which insulates it against cold weather. The animal's most distinctive features include its extremely dexterous front paws, its facial mask, and its ringed tail, which are common themes in the mythologies of the indigenous peoples of the Americas surrounding the species. The raccoon is noted for its intelligence, and studies show that it is able to remember the solution to tasks for at least 3 years. It is usually nocturnal and omnivorous, eating about 40% invertebrates, 33% plants, and 27% vertebrates. The original habitats of the raccoon are deciduous and mixed forests, but due to their adaptability, they have extended their range to mountainous areas, coastal marshes, and urban areas, where some homeowners consider them to be pests. As a result of escapes and deliberate introductions in the mid-20th century, raccoons are now also distributed across Central Europe, the Caucasus, and Japan. In Europe, the raccoon has been included on the list of invasive alien species of union concern since 2016. 4. This often share a common area, while unrelated males live together in groups of up to 4 raccoons in order to maintain their positions against foreign males during the mating season and against other potential invaders. Home range sizes vary anywhere from 3 hectares 7.4 acres for females in cities to 5,000 hectares 12,000 acres for males in prairies. After a gestation period of about 65 days, 2 to 5 young known as kits are born in spring. The kits are subsequently raised by their mother until dispersal in late fall. Although captive raccoons have been known to live over 20 years, their life expectancy in the wild is only 1.8 to 3.1 years. In many areas, hunting and vehicular injury are the 2 most common causes of death. Etymology: the mask of a raccoon is often interrupted by a brown-black streak that extends from forehead to nose. 6. Names for the species include the common raccoon, 7 North American raccoon, 8 and northern raccoon, 9 in various North American native languages. The reference to the animal's manual dexterity or use of its hands is the source for the names 10. The word raccoon was adopted into English from the native Powhatan term meaning animal that scratches with its hands, as used in the colony of Virginia. It was recorded on John Smith's list of Powhatan words as a rowcan, and on that of William Strachey as a rathkin. 11. It has also been identified as a reflex of a Proto-Algonquian root *rod-kun-m, meaning the one who rubs, scrubs, and scratches with its hands. 12. The word is sometimes spelled as raccoon. 13. In Spanish, the raccoon is called mapache, derived from the Nahuatl mapachli of the Aztecs, meaning the one who takes everything in its hands. 14. Its Latin name, procyon literally means before dog washer. 15. The genus Procyon was named by Gottlieb Conrad Christian Stohr. 10. The animal's observed habit of washing or dousing, see below, is the source of its name in other languages. 16. 17. For example, the French raton laver means washing rat. The colloquial 1830s, the United States Whig Party used the raccoon as an emblem, causing them to be pejoratively known as coons by their political opponents, who saw them as too sympathetic to African Americans. Soon, 1880, Gottlieb Conrad Christian Stohr placed the raccoon in its own genus Procyon, which can be translated as either before the dog or dog-like. 26-27. It is also possible that Stohr had its nocturnal lifestyle in mind and chose the star Procyon as a eponym for the species. 28-29. Evolution. Based on fossil evidence from Russia and Bulgaria, the first known members of the family Procyonidae lived in Europe in the late Oligocene about 25 million years ago. 30. Similar tooth and skull structures suggest procyonids and weasels share a common ancestor. But molecular analysis indicates a closer relationship between raccoons and bears. 31. After the then-existing species crossed the Bering Strait at least 6 million years later in the early Miocene. The center of its distribution was probably in Central America. 32. Coatis nashua and nashwella and raccoons Procyon have been considered to share common descent from a species in the genus Parnasua present between 5.2 and 6.0 million years ago. 33. This assumption, based on morphological comparisons of fossils, conflicts with a 2006 genetic analysis, which indicates raccoons are more closely related to ringtails. 34. Unlike other procyonids, such as the crab-eating raccoon Procyon cancrovirus, the ancestors of the common raccoon left tropical and subtropical areas and migrated farther north about 2.5 million years ago. In a migration that has been confirmed by the discovery of fossils in the Great Plains dating back to the middle of the Pliocene. 35-33. Its most recent ancestor was likely Procyon rexrodensis, a large blanket raccoon from the Rexroad Formation characterized by its narrow back teeth and large lower jaw. 36. Subspecies a Torchkey raccoon P.L. incautus in Cudjoe Key, Florida. Subspecies inhabiting the Florida Keys are characterized by their small size and very pale fur. Female raccoon of the Vancouver Island subspecies at Sydney, British Columbia, with characteristic dark fur. As of 2005, mammal species of the world recognizes 20 subspecies of raccoons, 37 of these subspecies living only on small Central American and Caribbean islands were often regarded as distinct species after their discovery. These are the Bahamian raccoon and Guadeloupe raccoon, which are very similar to each other. The Tres Marias raccoon, which is larger than average and has an angular skull, and the extinct Barbados raccoon. Studies of their morphological and genetic traits in 1999, 2003, and 2005 led all these island raccoons to be listed as subspecies of the common raccoon and mammal species of the world's third edition. A fifth island raccoon population, the Cozumel raccoon, which weighs only 3 to 4 kilograms, 6.6 to 8.8 pounds, and has notably small teeth, is still regarded as a separate species. 38, 39, 40, 41. The four smallest raccoon subspecies, with a typical weight of 1.8 to 2.7 kilograms for 0.0 to 6.0 pounds, live along the southern coast of Florida and on the adjacent islands. An example is the 10,000 Islands raccoon Procyon loader marine. Most of the other 15 subspecies differ only slightly from each other in coat color, size, and other physical characteristics. 43-40 for the two most widespread subspecies are the eastern raccoon Procyon loader and the Upper Mississippi Valley raccoon procyonid. Both share a comparatively dark coat with long hairs, but the Upper Mississippi Valley raccoon is larger than the eastern raccoon. The eastern raccoon occurs in all U.S. states and Canadian provinces to the north of South Carolina and Tennessee. The adjacent range of the Upper Mississippi Valley raccoon covers all U.S. states and Canadian provinces to the north of Louisiana, Texas, and New Mexico. 45. The taxonomic identity of feral raccoons inhabiting Central Europe, Asia, and Japan is unknown, as the founding populations consisted of uncategorized specimens. 46. The shoulder height is between 23 and 30 centimeters, 9.1 and 11.8 in. 74. The body weight of an adult raccoon varies considerably with habitat, making the raccoon one of the most variably sized mammals. It can range from 2 to 26 kilograms for 257.3 pounds, but is usually between 5 and 12 kilograms, 11 and 26 pounds. The smallest specimens live in southern Florida, while those near the northern limits of the raccoon's range tend to be the largest. See Bergmann's rule. 75. Males are usually 15 to 20% heavier than females. 76. At the beginning of winter, a raccoon can weigh twice as much as in spring because of fat storage. 79. The largest recorded wild raccoon weighed 28.4 kilograms, 63 pounds, and measured 140 centimeters, 55 in total length, by far the largest size recorded for a procyonid. 81. The most characteristic physical feature of the raccoon is the area of black fur around the eyes, which contrasts sharply with the surrounding white face coloring. This is reminiscent of a bandit's mask and has thus enhanced the animal's reputation for mischief. 80 to 83. The slightly rounded ears are also bordered by white fur. Raccoons are assumed to recognize the facial expression and posture of other members of their species more quickly because of the conspicuous facial coloration and the alternating light and dark rings on the tail. 80 for 85-86. The dark mask may also reduce glare and thus enhance night vision. 85-86. On other parts of the body, the long and stiff guard hairs, which shed moisture, are usually colored in shades of gray and, to a lesser extent, brown. 87. Raccoons with a very dark coat are more common in the German population because individuals with such coloring were among those initially released to the wild. 88. The dense underfur, which accounts for almost 90% of the coat, insulates against cold weather and is composed of 2 to 3 centimeters, 0.79 to 1.18 in long hairs. 87. The raccoon, whose method of locomotion is usually considered to be plantigrade, can stand on its hind legs to examine objects with its front paws. 89-90. As raccoons have short legs compared to their compact torso, they are usually not able either to run quickly or jump great distances. 91-92. Their top speed over short distances is 16 to 24 kilometers per hour, 9.9 to 14.9 miles per hour. 93-90. For raccoons can swim with an average speed of about 5 kilometers per hour, 3.1 miles per hour, and can stay in the water for several hours. 95-92. For climbing down a tree headfirst, an unusual ability for a mammal of its hind feet, so they are pointing backwards. 96-90. To raccoons have a dual cooling system to regulate their temperature. That is, they are able to both sweat and pant for heat dissipation. 97-98. Raccoon skulls have a short and wide facial region and a voluminous brain case. The facial length of the skull is less than the cranial, and their nasal bones are short and quite broad. The auditory bulla are inflated in form, and the sagittal crest is weakly developed. 99. The dentition 40 teeth with the dental formula. 3.1. For dot 2, 3.1. For dot 2 is adapted to their omnivorous diet. The carnassials are not as sharp and pointed as those of a full-time carnivore, but the molars are not as wide as those of a herbivore. Senses. The most important sense for the raccoon is its sense of touch. 108, 109, 110. The 5 digits of the paws have no webbing between them, which is unusual for a carnivore. 113. Almost 2/3 of the area responsible for sensory perception in the raccoon's cerebral cortex is specialized for the interpretation of tactile impulses, more than in any other studied animal. 114. They are able to identify objects before touching them with the bushy located above their sharp, non-retractable claws. 89. 110. The raccoon's paws lack an opposable thumb. Thus, it does not have the agility of the hands of primates. 110. 112. There is no observed negative effect on tactile perception when a raccoon stands in water below 10 degrees Celsius 50 degrees Fahrenheit for hours. 115. Raccoons are thought to be colorblind, or at least poorly able to distinguish color, though their eyes are well adapted for sensing green light. 116. 117. Although their accommodation of 11 diopter is comparable to that of humans, and they see well in twilight because of the tapetum lucidum behind the retina, visual perception is of subordinate importance to raccoons because of their poor long-distance vision. 119. 120. 121. In addition to being useful for orientation in the dark, their sense of smell is important for intraspecific communication. Only a few studies have been undertaken to determine the mental abilities of raccoons, most of them based on the animal's sense of touch. In a study by the ethologist H.B. Davis in 1908, raccoons were able to open 11 of 13 complex locks in fewer than 10 tries and had no problems repeating the action when the locks were rearranged or turned upside down. In a study by B. Pohl in 1992, raccoons were able to instantly differentiate between identical and different symbols 3 years after the short initial learning phase. 129. Stanislaus Dehaene reports in his book The Number Sense that raccoons can distinguish boxes containing 2 or 4 grapes from those containing 3. 130. In research by Susanna Herculano-Hausel and other neuroscientists, raccoons have been found to be comparable to primates in the cerebral cortex, which they have proposed to be a neuroanatomical indicator of intelligence. 131. 132.